I'm going to be talking about something not quite as exciting, but I find it exciting nonetheless. It's standardization. So we're looking at raising the bar in retail media, why standardization and certification matter more than ever. Colin's been referring to me all day as from IAB Europe. I am the chair of IAB Europe's Retail and Commerce Media Committee. WPP Media pay my wages. So I'm using their template today. I also don't like the IAB Europe template very much, and I had to build this deck on holiday, so I'm not looking at ugly slides on holiday. So yeah, I'm wearing two hats. This is really about IAB Europe stuff today. I'm so happy to be in Warsaw. I absolutely love it here. I have relatives here. Normally when I come here, I wasn't able to this time, but I normally bring the family. That's my wife and my little boy outside of the Palace of Culture and Science. That's my wife and I outside of the Syrenka Wakowska, the mermaid statue in the Old Town. And that's me very excited with a big mug of tea. And Poland has the best tea. So I'm used to being from England and tea served to us in a very small cup, which you hold with two fingers. I was very happy. I'd hold this with my whole fist. I got so excited I blocked out my Uncle P up behind there in the picture. But I'm very, very happy to be here. And my background is really, when I think of it as a broader theme, it's really transformation. So before I got into media, I worked at Hasbro. I transformed the way that Hasbro worked with e-commerce companies, mainly Amazon. You know, we were very set up selling to Toys R Us, Smith's Toys, Tesco, Argos, all of these different retailers who have brick and mortar stores, and they didn't know how to deal with e-commerce companies. You know, the POs were very, very different, how you set up products on a website, all of these different things. So that was the transformation that I was on. Now I'm on a very different journey with transformation around retail media, everything we've been talking about today, and it's very, very exciting. So I always kick off my presentations with a quote. I think this one from Andrew Grove, may he rest in peace, is a former Intel CEO, just embodies this presentation and this topic that I'm going to talk about perfectly. So you cannot manage what you cannot measure. We've all heard that, but you cannot measure without standardization. And you know, if you take anything away from the next 30 minutes, this is absolutely why the work that we're doing with IAB Europe on standardization matters. You may recognize the guy on the left-hand side of Andrew. I thought it was quite an old picture. They look, you know, he looks quite a bit younger here. It's quite funny, that laptop in the picture looks actually more modern than the laptop that I have at the moment, so maybe WPP need to get me a newer laptop, but never mind. So, we always look, I guess there's always been a perception that the US is ahead in terms of retail media, and I love what Colin said in his keynote earlier, that Europe has strengths, and we're actually leading in a lot of elements of retail media, particularly in in-store, which the US doesn't do very well. And I saw a brilliant presentation about a month ago in Amsterdam from a guy called Drew Cashmore. He's another retail media expert. He helped set up Walmart's retail media in Canada, and also very instrumental in the US with Walmart Connect's business. But you can see that the US landscape is very tilted. So 85% of retail media revenue flows through Amazon and Walmart in the US. Now, when we look at standardization, when you've got just 15% left for everyone else, it makes discussions around standardization, you know, less obsolete when you've got one player who's accounting for like 3/4 of the market in terms of business. And I love this chart because it shows you that the share of retail sales within a market isn't reflective of the success of retail media. If it was, Walmart would have a much bigger retail media revenue than it does. They sell more products, or they make more sales annually than Amazon does, but Amazon is so far ahead in terms of retail media revenue. And we can see that the sales are actually distributed far more evenly than we saw in the retail media on the other chart. So everyone's playing catch up with Amazon. In the US, it's a very digitally led market, all focused on on-site and off-site, like Colin was talking about. So why this disparity? We talked about the split between on-site, off-site, and in-store. In-store in the US actually makes up less than 1% of retail media revenue. Some retailers in Europe claim it makes up to around 10% of their retail media revenue in Europe, which is really interesting. Off-site is still relatively small, between 10 and 15% of the total globally. So the majority of retail media revenue comes from on-site retail media formats. And you can see that with Amazon, people spend a lot more time on Amazon's website than they do anywhere else. So this is monthly, and they spend just over 5 hours per month on Amazon in the US, with an average minutes per visit of 10.6. And if you compare that to Walmart, it's less than an hour every month. So you can really see Amazon sell a lot of different products. It's got a lot higher traffic. So clearly, there's more opportunity to sell on-site ads. Europe is way more challenging. I think according to IAB Europe, there's around 140 retail media networks active. There's fragmentation around markets, languages, cultures, maturity as well. So it's a far more challenging market. And if we do the same comparison, so the light blue is Amazon share of retail media ad spend, then the dark blue is all other players. So big round of applause for Poland, because they can show you, brilliant, they can show you that, yeah, the impact of Amazon can be minimized, you know, if you have a very, very strong local e-commerce and retail media players. You know, I presume the majority of that would be Allegro and other players as well. Netherlands not so far behind as well. They've got bol.com, very, very strong local e-commerce player with good retail media offering as well. And then we see in some of the other markets, you know, it's more similar to what we see in the US. So there's a real mix. There's a real mix there, and that's what makes Europe challenging. You know, and that's what's going to make standardization more relevant. Now, at IAB Europe, we have done for the last 2 years running a survey, an attitudes to retail media survey, and this is then all of the insights for that are collected and put into a report. I think Colin mentioned the report earlier, the attitudes to retail media report. And for 2 years in a row, lack of standardization has been the number one barrier to increasing investment in retail media for the buying side. The other one, number two, is retail media networks not integrated with other ad tech. I'm sure some of us can relate to that. And then number three is like lack of measurement and reporting entirely. This is really interesting. And Colin wrote a post. I was talking to him about this last night. He actually asked this question in his post. There was a few different questions. And he was like, why are people still moaning about the lack of standardization in retail media when standards actually exist? And I've been very heavily involved in the work that we've been doing at IAB Europe. We published retail media measurement standards in the middle of 2024. That's over 1 year ago. So why do we still have this problem now for the second year in a row? It's a very, very big question. And it's not my artwork. Someone's decided to sign it. But I don't know if you've heard the expression, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So maybe, you know, the stick man is us with the IB saying, yes, you know, standards are great. Come and drink from the fountain of standards. And the horse might not be thirsty. He might be, no, I'm quite happy. I want to chew some more hay or something like that. So I like to think of retail media in Europe, it's a bit of an arms race. The opportunity for revenue is real, and it's very, very big, and the opportunity for sustainable growth is a very, very live conversation. The argument around improving overall retailer margins is very, very serious from a commercial perspective when retailers are on very, very thin margins from their standard trade. This is really, really important stuff. And I appreciate as well that retailers probably have a million things to do. And standardization of their measurement to IAB standards might not be number one on their priority list. But I would hope that it can start to appear somewhere on that roadmap, because it is very, very important. I understand it can't all be done tomorrow, but yeah, it is very, very important. And the main thing that answers Colin's question is just producing the standards themselves is not enough. It's the adoption of the standards by the retailers that's really going to make this a success and make it work and make this a benefit for everyone in the industry. Like I said on the slide, standards without adoption are meaningless. So that's why we created the certification program. And I remember I went to meet one of our big global clients. They're headquartered in Paris, CPG company. And I was speaking to their global head of media, and I was presenting to him the standards. We literally just published them 2 weeks ago, and I went along and I showed him, look, this is great. You know, we've got the media metrics here, we've got the attribution metrics here. Here are the insights metrics. Here are the future insights metrics. And he was like, Jason, this is fantastic, but so what? And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, how do you know that the retailers are going to adhere to these standards or implement them? And I said, well, we have got a certification program in the pipeline to do that, but you know, we haven't launched it yet. So that was a great question, and that just shows you how important this certification program is, because the theory behind this is that if the retailers say, right, our retail media proposition is certified for measurement standards by IAB Europe, it gives the advertisers, it gives the agencies that confidence that when they're talking about sales attribution, when they're talking about return on ad spend, they know exactly what it means and they know the exact methodology behind it. So we launched this year. It's a very, very complicated process because we've got our set of standards, and then we've got the retailers that want to be assessed by those. So who does the assessments? Now we brought in a panel of auditors to do the assessments. So that means educating the auditors who are auditors specialized in media already. But retail media is such a new part of media, so there's a lot of familiarization that's needed around making sure that they understand retail media really, really well, and then can match up and audit the propositions of the retailers and make sure that they align to our standards. So onboarding these auditors in this new area of media measurement was a very, very big task. But I'm absolutely delighted to say that we have our first certified retailer, which is Albert Heijn in the Netherlands. So they're our first, hopefully the first of many. We do have in the pipeline Nectar 360, which is the retail media business of Sainsbury's in the UK. I believe they will be certified at some point in the future, very, very soon as well. So we've made a very good start, which is great. And I think, hopefully this thing starts to snowball. I think the more that you get on board, the more that people want to get involved, which is great. Exactly what we're looking for. And I've spoken to many advertiser media leads. They want to see measurement certification from retailers. The growing number of retail media networks to consider is making things way more complicated for them. That fragmentation, having to deal with so many different platforms, so many different measurement, checking that the KPIs match. It's hard work. So if what's being measured is consistent because they see that certification, this makes things much, much easier for the brands. And this is so important because our industry works, the lifeblood of our industry is the budget from the advertisers, the budget from our clients, the likes of the Diageos, the Barillas, the Asahis that you saw up here earlier. So it's so important that we facilitate this for them. And I think this is a brilliant quote from Rishika from Henkel, and she talks about strengthening a trustful relationship with retailers, but more importantly, helping brands to make the right investment decisions when it comes to retail media. And you can't do that if you're not comparing apples to apples across different retailers. So the benefits are really, really clear to see. Standardized measurement means better investment decisions can be made, like I said. Brands and agencies can compare performance across retailers. I think the main thing that we debated a lot, and I wasn't in the room, it was 15 retailers. Some of you may have been in the room when we drafted up the standards. We had a panel from 15 retailers across Europe. They spent a couple of days workshopping this together in London some time ago. I think it was at the McKinsey offices, actually. And the attribution side of things, caused a lot of debate. And that's exactly, why the IAB can bring everyone together in order to have these important debates and bring something that, can be aligned on across the board with all of retail. But, when we talk about ROAS, what was the attribution window? Is it a last touch model? Is it a last click model? Are we looking at a single SKU attribution? Are we looking at a brand halo attribution? One ROAS number and a similar ROAS number can mean a very, very different thing. So this is why this is so important. So it removes that ambiguity around metrics and methodologies, and importantly as well, provides that foundation for future enhancements that we can build on. I picked out of a presentation earlier that KPIs also, need to evolve. And of course, they will naturally evolve as well. But we have that baseline, we have that foundation, and we can keep updating it. So it's a very straightforward process. If there's any retailers in the room who are interested, we work with our panel of auditors. There's a compliance table that you can access via the IAB Europe website, a very, very detailed table. You can go and take a look at that and then decide on which of the 3 auditors you want to partner with. Important, step 2, you don't have to audit your entire retail media proposition. If you don't think the whole thing is ready, maybe it's just right. We just launched on-site display, but our sponsored ads have been running for 3 years already. That's very mature. Like, we're confident we can get certified on sponsored ads. You can just be certified for sponsored ads, and you can look at the other stuff later on. So that's very, very important. Then the retailer undergoes the audit with the preferred auditor. If successful, then the auditor reports that to the IAB, and they then confirm that they've met the minimum requirements. Then the IAB issues a certificate. Between step 3 and step 4, this is where there can be a lot of back and forth, because obviously we don't put anyone in the program not to be certified and to fail. So the retailer, if there's reasons why at any moment they wouldn't be certified, they can then have very clear feedback from the auditor on what's needed to get them up to the level in order to get that tick and get that certification. And then they have time to implement, and then the auditors go back. So it's a very collaborative process, and we're setting up retailers to win. We clearly want the retailers to get certified. That's a very, very important point. So how much does it cost? That was the question that people were asking at the IAB session I had in Amsterdam a few weeks ago. So there's two costs. The cost that I can't comment on is the independent auditor costs, because that is between the retailer and the auditor. But the fixed cost from the IAB for this certification is €7,500. From the date of the certificate, that is then valid for 2 years. So you're certified for 2 years until that elapses. And I think that's very generous given the pace of change in this industry. So hopefully that's clear as well. You can see our panel of auditors on the top of the chart as well. So hopefully some of you guys will be familiar with them as well. So yeah, we can do this. As the saying goes, Rome wasn't built in a day. And it is going to be, a long process. Like I said on 2 slides ago, that gap between step 3 and step 4, that might take 2 months, it might take 6 months. It doesn't matter. I think all's well that ends well, if you can make sure that you get that certification. We already have one. We have another one in the pipeline. We have more interest as well. My ambition for the end of next year is that across all of the main European markets is that we have at least 2 retailers certified, and that's going to give us a great base to move forward with. But yeah, that's going to take a lot of work. But it's a big ambition, and we've made a very, very strong start. And this is going to expand to ad tech as well. So it's not just retailers that we're going to certify. We're going to look at ad tech companies as well, so that they can get the certifications. And this is going to expand to broader commerce media as well, not just retail media. So that could mean travel, that could mean finance, that could mean quick commerce, and we're going to have standards that expand to all of those different areas of media as well. So I just want to double down. This is really important for advertisers. This is Casper from Unilever, which is a WPP client. I think the best thing I see from this quote is it fosters credibility and trust, simplifies cross-retailer comparisons, like I've been saying, and ensures advertisers receive reliable data. I think that's so important. I had an interview earlier. I had some great questions from the Footprints team. And I said that advertisers deserve to know that when they're running a set of campaigns, of retail media campaigns, the performance report they get back, it's in the same language across all of the different retailers. One retailer is not speaking a different language from another. Polish ROAS versus French ROAS versus Chinese ROAS. It all has to be the same standardized return on ad spend. And like I said, their budgets are the lifeblood of the industry. They fuel our industry. So if you want to look at the standards, scan the code. That will take you to the IAB Europe site. There's a great page there. You've got the IAB Europe's retail media measurement standards. Haven't had time to kind of go into that. That's a much longer session, but you can have a look at the different metrics and methodologies, the direction that we're heading in. There's also a guide on in-store retail media definitions and measurement standards as well, because that has to be looked at very, very differently. So this is a great resource And from that, you can then explore the other things that we have around standardization and certification on IAB's site as well. So thank you so much for listening. I really enjoyed talking to you. I'll leave you with this. Certification offers retailers a chance to stand out by committing to accountability and measurement integrity, which will help foster stronger collaboration with brands and agencies. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, there's a code I think a few of you have already. Always happy to chat about all things commerce and retail media. Thank you so much.